Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cackling Hags, a podcast with two girlies from the Midwest with too many thoughts to keep to ourselves.
Join us as we discuss the intersections of all things Bravo, pop culture, sports, progressive politics, and anything else that comes to our minds.
I'm Beth, one of your co hosts, one of your main hags, joined here with our other co host and main hag, Allie. How are you, Allie?
I'm good. I'm happy to be chatting again. I know it's been a minute. Life happens, and I don't know about you, but it's been a weird month or two, kind of at the start of 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like down in Kansas City, but up here in North Dakota, it's like the weather has been complete chaos. So there was like a blizzard last week, and the day before it had been 60 degrees. So it was 60 degrees, and
Wow.
then the next day it was like 1 degree. And so yeah, it's been, and then we got another blizzard over the weekend. Like it's too much. Nobody knows what's going on. Um, so yeah, I'm happy to be here, and he's might be about to make an introduction. I got a cat.
Oh
So
my
I'm very
gosh.
excited about my new little buddy. His
Yeah,
name is
I saw on Instagram.
He's adorable, but he's a wild child. His name is Morton, and it's peak zoomy time right now. So
Okay.
he's zooming, and he's laying on top of my printer currently, right next to me. So he may be making an appearance anytime soon. I apologize in advance for any interruptions.
Love that.
He's really cute, so it's worth it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Beth? How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I definitely relate to the erratic weather. We had a week, I think it was 2 weeks ago. What is time anymore? Where, we had like every single season in the same week. We went to bed with, there was like a record high one day, and then we woke up with snow on the ground. It doesn't sound nearly as extreme as what you're experiencing in North Dakota. In fact, for the last like several days, it's been unseasonably warm to the point where I'm like, we can wait a little bit. Like, I don't need to have 85-degree weather in March.
Oh my
So I don't
God,
know if it was 85 yesterday, but it was in the 80s. So
that's
it's
insane.
yeah, it is. But other than that, no, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's been a very busy start to 2024 with just like life and work stuff and our schedules. It's kind of hard to sync up sometimes. So I like the month frequency that we have right now because I like that we don't have to like, I mean, love all of our hags and haglets who listen, but there, nobody is out there, mad that we're not putting out an episode. So, maybe one day we'll get there, but it is nice to just have this as a hobby and something we get to do and not something that, we feel pressure to do.
For sure.
But yeah, I guess that's a good segue into hags and haglets. I hope that y'all are doing well as well. And just a reminder, I hate this part. This part is so obnoxious, and I'm sorry, but we have to do it because this is one of the most important parts of sharing content and podcasting is rating, reviewing, and subscribing. That's all we're asking.
Subscribe button.
Yeah, just a little love, just a little, send it to some of your friends who you think would be entertained by the topics we talk about. So yeah.
Yeah. Please. Yeah. It is annoying, and I know a lot of folks have already subscribed or rated or reviewed. We appreciate every single one of you that's done that. But it would also really help us if you sent it to fellow hags and haglets in your lives. Share the love. We think this is a pretty fun time for us, and other folks
Mm-hmm.
have enjoyed listening to it. So yeah, share it with folks you think might be interested in our take on sports and pop culture and all the other random things we talk about. I think it's hysterical, obviously,
Yeah.
but I think other people would too. So please share it with folks in your lives, and try and spread the word that we are doing this thing and having a lot of fun with it, because we'd love to keep it up.
And slide into our DMs,
Mm.
y'all. We want to hear from you, even if it's constructive feedback. I mean, we're at the phase in our journeys where we would love constructive feedback. You won't hurt our feelings, but we also really want to hear what you want to hear about. So if there is an issue that you want us to take a deep dive on, or that we've perhaps scratched the surface with and want us to go further, I would be happy to do that. We would be happy to do that. So definitely slide into our DMs, and let us know what your cackles and hackles are. But I'm going to get us started off with our cackles and hackles just to kick us off. So I have like several cackles this week. There's just a lot of goofy things going on the internet, but I think one of my main cackles right now is the Kate Middleton conspiracy theory. And this is a cackle of mine because I know very little about the royal family. I mean, I know like the most superficial amounts about the royal family. I mean, I watched The Crown, followed all of the, the saga with
Meg's.
Meghan Markle. Yes. So it is really interesting that the shoe is on the other foot now, with Kate Middleton. And I don't know enough to even be like a smart commentator on it. I just, oh, look at the kitty.
There
Oh,
he
he's
is.
tabby.
Yes.
Oh
His name's
my
and
goodness,
he's
what a handsome boy. He kind of looks like Earl.
he does a little bit.
Oh my goodness, so cute.
He
Um, so I am
sorry.
enjoying the Kate Middleton um, conspiracy theories because I think every now and then there's a good, fun conspiracy theory that I can sort of, get bought into that doesn't, you know, that isn't super earnest, but it's like kind of fun to joke
Yeah.
about. So I've been following that discourse. And I would say my hackle is the CDC. Um,
Mm.
I'm just so frustrated that the goalposts keep moving. When I saw that the CDC is recommending that you can go places if you test positive for COVID, like what are we doing here?
It's so bad.
It's so bad. And that combined with the fact that they also low key, very quietly recommended that the elderly people and immunocompromised people, other types of at risk, like high at risk people, get 2 vaccinations a year. And I don't know how I would know that if I wasn't following very specific, pages on Instagram. It wasn't a CDC or a government announcement. So it's kind of sending mixed messages of, yeah, you should, do more to protect yourself, but also you can go on and go back to work if you need to.
What is public health, It
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
got
And
into it.
so just frustrating for lots of reasons. I don't want to belabor it too much, but it's just like kind of one of the many eye rolls that's eye rolls. I don't know if that comes out the way that I it says eye rolls. That's how I heard it in my head. One of the many eye rolls that I have done in the past several months. So
Yeah, that's not a good one. We're not in a good place there, I would say.
no,
Um,
not.
yeah, and it's just interesting, I think, also because people were like, "Oh, when Biden becomes president, we'll deal with the pandemic seriously," and it's like,
Yeah, it definitely does not lend a whole lot of legitimacy to what one of the major issues of the 2020 election was, which was, pandemic response. And obviously there's a lot of variables that have changed since
Mhm.
2020, which is the advancement of vaccines and stuff like that. But even with vaccinations, our vaccination rate is very low. And
Right.
I also just never really observe or see a concerted effort, other than Travis Kelsey,
Travis Kelce.
Mr. Pfizer.
Yep. Yeah, it's just I think back on the 2020 campaign and like the one of the lines I remember best is I'm gonna follow the science.
Mm-hmm.
What's the science say now, Joe?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyhow, my cackles and hackles, I don't really have necessarily a cackle. I just want to give a big shout out to Caitlin Clark, who
Oh yeah.
this weekend she is now the NCAA all-time scoring record holder between men and women. Huge honor, and I think it's so great to see what she's done.
Mm-hmm.
Particular for the NCAA women's sports, but just in general, I think women's sports like more. I've seen way more interest in women's sports in the last year or two, like since she's
Yeah.
really made a name for herself than I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really excited that she declared for the WNBA draft. I think I can't remember who has the first pick. I want to say it's like Indiana, but
Mm-hmm.
so that's likely where she'll end up because she's obviously going to be number one. Um, but I'm just excited to see her success in college women's basketball. I hope and I believe it will translate to the WNBA, and I think that's the spark the WNBA needs.
Yeah.
They've invested a lot more money in it the last few years, and like the WNBA has been making, leaps and bounds on what they were back like when I was growing up. But I
Mm-hmm.
think this having a player like Caitlin Clark is going to change the game for them. And when she's in, and then I think Angel Reese will be in soon, like it's going to change the game for women's sports. And I can't wait to see it. So not as much a cackle, nothing really to laugh at, just a big shout out to women doing big things. So
Yeah, no, we love it. And
love to
as
see
you
it.
all know, I am a Nebraska fan, so Iowa is our biggest rival. But obviously, I'm still very, very, just in awe of Caitlin Clark. I do have to give our women's basketball team a shout out because they upset Iowa. I don't even know when, sometime within the last month.
So did we at one
But
point.
yeah, but to
Won't
your
forget
point,
either.
there was some drums. There was drama with the Nebraska Iowa game. And you
Ooh,
all know me. You know that I am a sucker for the discourse. So in addition to these highlights, I love to see what people are saying about it. And there was a controversial technical foul that was called on an Ohio State player in Caitlin's favor. So it was pretty interesting. It was hard to argue with what the Ohio State people were saying. I'll say that, and I'm not undermining Caitlin Clark's success, but and I don't watch enough to know some of the nuances of like gamemanship because I know that gamemanship is a really big part of any sport, right? So
yeah,
I don't mean this in a like clutching my pearls way, but I just
yeah,
thought it was interesting discourse. So what happened was Caitlin Clark like bumped into an Ohio State player, and an Ohio State player sort of responded, but wasn't anything out of the ordinary, anything that I thought was unreasonable. And then Caitlin Clark did like a what they say a flop, like an
yeah,
over exaggerated flop, and that's kind of what she has the reputation for is doing some of those antics. But with any success, it's also going to come that reputation because people say that about, my QB1 in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, too.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think that's when you're the number one in your sport, I think it's easy for people to like find all of the problem where it's like if somebody on the K-State women's team flopped, not a big deal, but it's
yeah.
because it's like. And I think the other thing too, which is totally fair and totally realistic, is that the refs want to like, and I'm not saying the refs are like biased or paid by the NCAA to like make those calls, but there is a little bit of like internal, they're not necessarily thinking things through, like thinking about it that way. But I think sometimes when you're one of the greats, you do get some
You get a little
calls in
favoritism.
that you wouldn't. And I don't, yeah. And like you said, it's not a knock on Caitlin Clark. It's just, it kind of comes with the territory of being like the best to ever do it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the discourse is interesting. I think especially after I think it was it the Ohio State game with the where the fans rushed the court and all of that and she got knocked over.
Uh, I
Um
That I think that was actually the Nebraska game.
Was that
No, it
Nebraska?
was Ohio State. It was Ohio State.
Okay. But yeah, I think
Um,
and like everybody's kind of I don't know. It's just I think it's hard to be the greatest in a sport and especially when like all eyes are on you watching watching
yeah.
the scoring happen. It's yeah, I think she definitely
This
gets
one was a
calls in her
little different, I will say, because she clearly instigated it. I mean, she
yeah.
clearly I
Mhm.
know it's a little bit difficult to explain out of context, but she definitely like walked up to the player, ran into them, and then they called
Yeah.
a foul on the other player.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
So,
When you're the greatest to ever do it, calls are going to go your way and I
yeah,
mean, if she plays into it,
yeah.
she plays it like use it to your advantage or disadvantage. It's up to you, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
like I said, gamemanship, and I'm also approaching this with a little bit of ignorance because what do I know? I'm just seeing these clips on Twitter and giggling. I'm
yeah, I was
giggling
gonna
at
say
the drums,
I haven't even
giggling
seen
at the
it. I
drums.
have
I'll
no
send it to
idea.
you after this.
Oh, please do it because now I need to know.
Yeah.
Um, my hackle of the week and like I don't know the last probably since 2020 since Amy Coney Barrett ended up on the Supreme Court. My hackle is the Supreme Court of the United States. It is just astounding to me that there are no ethics. I mean, there are quote unquote ethics rules. Like they exist in spirit, but there's no actual teeth behind them. And
Hmm.
I think John Oliver really did a great job talking about this. In particular, Clarence Thomas, who's just like so corrupt. And
Yep.
we never would have known if ProPublica wouldn't have dug into it. Like it all came because of journalism, not because he reported any of the things or anybody else caught him. So it's just and then the fact that as of today he was part of the ruling that allowed Trump to stay on the ballot in Colorado when
Hmm.
his wife was the like one of the main perpetrators of an insurrection against the United States and like somehow it's not I mean I know there's circles that are mad about this but it's just how is that not a bigger deal in the news like
Yeah.
wife was one of the main forces behind overthrowing a free and fair election in our country and we're still allowing her husband to rule on it it's just it's it's astounding that that's where we're at and I hope changes come but like they're not going to come anytime soon I don't think and so it's just it's frustrating that there's really nothing as a citizen and I know it's like one of the big dem things is like oh vote him out and like that
Hmm.
feels like it's not enough but literally we can't even do that
Yeah, I
like
know.
they're just there forever and so I
Yeah.
think it's
Yeah,
just nothing we can
I'm
do.
not like a term limits evangelist like some people are with like Congress
Mhm.
and stuff, but I am with the Supreme Court. Like it is insane to me that you can serve, you get appointed and it's a political appointment. Like let's be
Obvious,
honest.
yeah,
It's so political and then you just got to be an activist judge for the rest of your life. I
right
mean,
and then also just looking at like the fact that it like Mitch McConnell
mhm.
I mean, I know he's like ending his term, and people are like, "What are you going to remember about him?" I'm like, "That he fucked us over for like the next 5 decades." Like,
Yeah.
ugh, it's just like that. The fact that that man had so much power in the last few years, and the what he did to not just the Supreme Court but to our federal courts is awful, and it's going to take so much to undo the damage that he did. So,
Yep. Well, on that note, let's get into some of the more fun topics.
yes, please.
Um, uh, well, Hags and Haglets, we didn't even have a chance to recap the Super Bowl, which is so hard to believe. I cannot believe that, this much time has gone by in the last month, let alone the last time that we got together. But if that might be okay because I think that the Super Bowl, the discourse that went along with it, and the tragic events that unfolded in the aftermath were just like so close to home. And I was pretty on edge that week and for a couple of weeks. So, we don't need to get super deep about it or anything, but it just, I have actually kind of been enjoying taking a break from the discourse to everyone's dismay, who has ever listened to this podcast with Travis and Taylor, I'm like, I just feel a little bit lighter that I don't, and it's not necessarily them. but it's just like all of the opinions that come with it. So it's like being exposed to, like the radical stands or the radical haters, and not being able to just like enjoy it at this, like, I don't know what a normal level, what face value is, that a
Yeah,
thing?
like
So I have to say that I'm
like,
I'm like okay with the break. I know that like not everyone is on a break in terms of that content, but I am. So,
yeah,
but hot off the press today is the Jason Kelsey retirement announcement. Have you had a chance to catch up on that at all?
ugh, I was watching it, but I was at work and I started crying, so I had to turn it off. I was just like, "I
Yeah,
can't do this."
I know.
Um,
I know. It was
I
so
honestly,
sweet.
like, I after they won the Super Bowl and he gave his speech in, that costume, like, I've loved him ever since.
Yeah.
But like, over the like when him and Travis started their podcast, like when it was the Kelsey Super Bowl, the Kelsey Bowl, like that just really changed my perspective of both of them
Yeah.
as like people. And so I'm just like I'm so invested in Jason Kelsey, and like that speech today, I was just like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
me, and like he didn't until a few years ago, but God, I love him. And
Yeah. I mean, he's so likable, and
Mhm.
he means so much to that city, to Philadelphia, and so much to that team, to his teammates, and I mean to the culture, not to rip off Las Culturistas, but he's also just become this cultural icon, this pop
Mhm.
cultural icon, which, is partially because of Taylor, but also I think partially because of his personality and how he really leans into supporting Travis, considering how far the Chiefs went this year. I mean, how far the Chiefs went, that we won the Super Bowl, and that unfortunately, he wasn't as he could be a spectator. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was super, super fun.
And yeah, I mean, and he's just so endearing. Like everything he does, I'm just like, God, you're fantastic. Like from the taking off his shirt and jumping out of the suite to
Yeah.
like partying after the Super Bowl with Marshmallow in his mask. And like, I don't know if you
Yeah.
watched or saw the New Heist episodes where he's like, the belly took over. I was just
Yeah. Yeah.
he's just so fun. Like he just seems like somebody who genuinely loves his life, is
Yeah.
happy, like just happy to be here, happy for his experiences, and wants to make the most out of everything. And like,
Loves his family,
mhm,
loves just everything about, whatever moment he's in. What's wild to me is I discovered recently that and I know not everyone is going to agree with like everything, but I thought that, Jason and Donna Kelsey were pretty like non-controversial. But I
mhm.
stumbled across a Travis Kelsey's Reddit snark page.
Oh no.
Which it's so unserious. And I think you all know how I feel about snark pages. Like I'm not or maybe you don't if this is your first episode, but I'm not necessarily against it because, Travis has done some snarkable things and some goofy things. He's a little bit of a menace. But the snark pages of some of these people, like I've touched on the Brittany Mahomes people a
Mhm.
little bit. And the Travis Kelsey snark page is kind of similar in that way, where they snark on like everything that he does every time he breathes about very unserious things. And I just have to give a couple of examples.
Oh,
So
please
they
do.
were scandalized and clutching their pearls over the fact that Donna Kelsey rode Southwest economy back from Las Vegas. And what many people were pointing out, even their own like snarkers, are like, this is actually like a paid ad.
Right. That's wasn't he paid? Like
Yeah, I mean, it was an ad. And I thought
it
that
was an
one of the
ad from
grievances
Southwest.
with Travis Kelsey these days is like how much private jet usage him and Taylor's relationship is causing. So it's like, can we at least pick a lane here and be consistent with it and just be serious? Like, don't be so unserious that your snark isn't even witty. And then they outlined the big red flags of Travis Kelce, which I renamed Travis Kelce's greatest hits because they outlined they outlined like some of his antics from his earlier days. Like I wouldn't say he was a rookie, but it was like back in the 2016 when he made that like jerk off motion to the ref.
Oh yeah.
And he like threw a flag, flew a towel back at the ref. And I'm like, I'm not proud of him for those things, but those things are funny looking back in hindsight. So y'all got to get a grip.
Right.
I'm very fascinated with hater culture because I think I think it parallels stan culture in a lot of ways because it's the same level of obsession. It's like people just put so much energy into like writing these like theories about why people are bad, and it's like you all are not any better than the stands who are like putting them on a pedestal. It's like the same type of pathology to me. But yeah, I just had to like sound off on that, and I'll I'll send you the snark page too. It's funny.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and it was funny to me to see how many people were like, he shouldn't talk to it, like when he was angry at Andy Reid and like kind of bumped into him, and it was like, yeah, that was a little much. But also, have you ever played in the Super Bowl and have everything on the line? Like, do you know what's going through that? And it's just like, it's too, like, it could have, maybe you could say it's overdone, but I think it's really hard to say that from somebody who's never competed outside of high school sports. Like, I don't know the feelings there, and I don't like claim to, but it's just, it seems ridiculous to me that like people were like, oh, and the Swifties in particular, like, oh, that's a red flag. And I'm like, but then afterwards, all the videos you saw of him and Taylor Swift at the club, they were like loving on each other. He was
Yeah.
like taking care of her. It's like, I think that might just be in the heat of the moment, which you guys don't know any, because you've never played in a Super Bowl. Don't claim to know what that feels like. Like,
Well, and this like kind of goes back to what one of my initial just like gut reactions was when I heard that Taylor and Travis were dating, which was a little bit of, oh God, now everybody is going to discover Travis Kelce and Brittany Mahomes and Jackson Mahomes and all of the lore that goes on with that because we're used to Travis Kelce in Kansas City. That was not
that's
I thought
nothing.
that I thought that was over the line personally, but I didn't think that it, had a proportional amount of outrage or rage or whatever. I thought that people were way overreacting to it just because this is how Travis Kelce is.
Yeah. And I think,
Um,
didn't
and
him and,
especially when we learned the context after.
yeah.
So, but it's like, okay, I feel like part of this outrage really lies in just like not understanding football, not understanding
Mhm.
Travis and not understanding Andy Reid and Travis. So
Right,
that's
because they
why,
have such
people
a
are just
good
like, it's out of
relationship.
context. Yeah. Oh, they've got a great relationship.
Yeah, and that's why, and I think, didn't they, I'm not a New Heights, always listener. I'm a casual listener, but I want to say him and Jason discussed it, and even Travis was like, yeah, man, I went too far, but like,
Yeah. And then Jason gave him like a talking, was like,
yeah,
that's actually what I predicted would happen because some of my friends were texting me how, they that was an ick that gave them the ick, and I was like, I understand. He's gonna get
yeah.
on his podcast though and charm you guys all over again. Jason's
Mhm.
gonna slap his wrist, and then everybody's gonna forget about it. And especially since the Chiefs won, it would have been a much bigger deal if the Chiefs
If they
lost.
lost. Totally.
But he came out there and played an incredible second half
Mm,
and was a huge factor in us winning the Super Bowl. So it's like,
yeah.
anyways,
Somebody's got to show some emotion, I guess. Just maybe not that way.
yeah. All right. What else is on our docket? Should we
Well,
get
I
into
guess,
Bravo?
yeah, let's do Bravo.
Okay, where should we start? This is a wow. This we got
It's
a lot on our plates with Bravo. I think I would just like to get Summer House out of the way if that's okay.
Yeah, that's a big one. Let's do it.
Okay. I will say aside from, some of the things we're going to touch on, this is a pretty fun season of Summer House.
Yeah, I mean, we're only 2 episodes in, but the vibes are high.
Yeah, The
Um,
vibes are high. We've got drama. I mean, the drama that is the most upsetting to me isn't even the only drama that we have.
yeah, yeah, there's so much more to it. I know obviously the season I think is going to focus on Lindsay and Carl.
Yep.
I want to dive deeper into Kyle and Amanda because I think they hate each other. Like
They cannot stand each other.
last season wasn't nearly as bad as this one. Like they've
It
always
wasn't.
been meh, like to me, but this season is just like, eesh.
But it's not really any surprise
No, no,
that they are where they are. I mean, the main storyline I feel like has been Lindsay and Carl for the last few seasons, but Amanda and Kyle's, wedding season was some of the darkest things I've ever seen on bravotv.com. I mean, the the like sticky note where she said if you get drunk then you have to pay for the wedding or whatever.
like
Wasn't
that. I
that
can't.
a thing? I mean, his drinking and his binge drinking has always been an issue. And I sometimes I wonder with some of these fights is if they're not saying the real thing.
Yeah,
And I kind of think that that's one of the issues still, because like in the first episode I wasn't really on Amanda's side. Like I thought that she was, I don't even remember what I thought. I just thought she was being kind of unfair. But then the second episode, when I saw Kyle be, blackout drunk by noon, I was like,
again, here we go again. Like,
this,
yeah,
can you imagine being married to somebody who does that
yeah.
regularly?
I mean, that has to suck, but also he gave no indication that he was going to change prior to the wedding. So it's just like, I feel bad for her for sure, but also like, I just feel like she knew what she signed up for. I don't know. And then,
That's how I feel about Carl to a
yeah,
degree.
to a degree, I think it's different. But I think the other thing with Amanda that kind of blew my mind is like, she's still bringing up him cheating on her. And it's like, how did you marry this man?
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
cheated on you how long? Like, he cheated on you how long ago? You got engaged, planned a wedding, went through with the wedding,
You got
and
married.
got married. Yeah, now here we are, 2 years. They've been married, what, 2 years now, I think in 2024 it'll be. I think they got
Yes.
married, or was it 2021? I can't remember, but they've
I
been
could not
married.
be on either of their sides, honestly. Like
I mean, me
I
either.
like they obviously are very incompatible, have like very different outlooks on like
Yeah,
work. I get that she doesn't work very much, but it's like to my understanding is that Loverboy is doing fine where she doesn't really have to if
have
that's
to.
like not her passion. Like
Yeah, I think I agree that I really can't be on any other sides. The only side I'm on is you guys are should not be together. Like
yeah.
you could
But
be fine. You would probably be much better off individually and like starting over than going through with this anymore. Like I
and
don't
quite
think either of
frankly,
them
I
is
don't
necessarily right or wrong. I think they're just not right together. I mean, obviously there you could take sides in different arguments and whatnot, but I think the overall thing is just that they are not right together.
yeah.
And neither of them are willing to say that, which like it sucks that Carl called off the wedding, but I think God, I
At
wish
least he
Kyle and Amanda
did.
would have. Yeah. Like
And
Kyle
I mean, speaking of Carl and Lindsay, that is one thing that really binds Kyle and Amanda. They are never stronger than when they can gossip and snark on Carl and Lindsay, particularly Lindsay. So
yeah.
we saw a turn in their demeanor and their, chemistry when there was that big blowout fight and they were like canoodling in the bed.
Hmm.
But they don't have Carl and Lindsay drama. They're not going to have that to sustain them for the rest of their lives.
Right. There's yeah, they're just not meant to be together. That being said,
Um,
moving on to the Carl and Lindsay of it.
oh my God. Okay, let me start. I'm sorry. Let me
Yes.
just like
No,
a
I
few
wanted
things
you
off
to
my
do it.
chest.
I
Cause,
needed you.
for whatever reason, this is just one of the shows that gets on my nerves the most. And I think it might be because of the fan base. And I think it might be because the discourse is always so extreme. Like there's never any sort of like middle ground, or not even middle ground, because I'm not
It's like
necessarily a middle ground person. It's just like,
understanding of the
yeah,
bigger picture. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like people take
Um,
sides so extremely that they can't see, like, hey, maybe they kind of fucked up a little bit. And like,
right, right. Ooh, that was bad, girl. Like, can't really defend you there, but
yeah.
yeah, I think it's like the rhetoric that goes on with you know, in the dialogue and the discourse. Like some of the podcasters who I love and who I follow, who are more sympathetic to Lindsay, but not necessarily like stands, but also just like don't hate everything that she does, are refusing to cover Summer House because people just like come for them and like want them to give like some State of the Union. I'm taking this from Cell, who asks Cell, she's awesome, every time that Lindsay like does something wrong. And it's just like we so let's get into it. From the beginning of this episode, the vibes, even the beginning of the season, the vibes were so off with Carl and Lindsay. Like and I know that some people I was kind of just like in my little Delulu land, but the vibes have always been kind of off, but they just seemed like there was just like a tension there. And I Lindsay was wrong in this situation. Like
Yes.
obviously, I don't think anybody is denying that. But what I was picking up on is that Lindsay was clearly anxious and on edge as soon as she got to the house. And what I don't like about Carl is that he is insidious and avoidant and passive aggressive. Lindsay is incredibly reactive and predictable. We can predict Lindsay's, we can predict what's going to set her off. If we can do that, I think Carl probably can.
Should be able to at this point. If he
Should be
can't,
able to at this
if he
point.
can't, that says a lot about like his ability to read
He
a room.
can. I'm not gonna live in this like I'm not even gonna give him the benefit of the doubt type of thing, because in terms of like not knowing that Lindsay's upset, because it's just so transparent to me. And it's not that he like doesn't know, it's that he like pretends not to know and then just like shoves it down and like doesn't want to deal with it because he just wants to have like a good time at the house.
Mhm.
And Lindsay's biggest triggers from every relationship that she's been in is her like feeling abandoned and feeling invalidated. And so I feel like the fact that she walked into that house maligned was a recipe for disaster. And I think that Carl knew that because he knew, you know, he was there on the journey with her. And so that this is my bone to pick with Carl. Obviously, he doesn't deserve the accusations of being called cocaine Carl. And I cannot defend Lindsay for that, but it just seems like there was something incredibly off with their dynamic since they even came on screen.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I think from the was it the first conversation we saw, or no, not the first, but the
In their
one.
apartment, babe, and that like awkward side hug.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it was weird. And then also like their conversation on the basketball court when he got done playing. She's like, "Oh my God, we'll be married in 2 months," and he was like, "Uh-huh." Like you could tell.
yeah.
But and so I guess my big question is what happened to make him act like that? Like, and I'm not saying she did anything wrong, but obviously there was something leading up to him already being weird about their engagement. And I don't know, like, I'm not a Lindsay, I've never been a big Lindsay fan, but I've always been like, she's getting a really shit deal in like the argument online. Like,
Yeah.
she's not always right, but she's not always wrong the way people paint her out to be. You know, it's like I like to try and see the bigger picture. And so it's just like what got them to that point going into the summer, and like was she trying to put on for the cameras like, "Oh, everything's fine." And Carl's like, "No, it's not." But again, why wouldn't he have that conversation with her? Like this is your fiance.
Well, and
And
I don't even think that Lindsay, I think that she was doing that last summer for sure. And
Mhm.
those, we saw those cracks like pretty quickly. But this summer, she seemed to already be a little bit, you know, on edge about wedding planning and doing all of the wedding planning.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's crazy that we thought we were going to have this like build up and then it was just like a freaking explosion in the second episode. And now I'm like, well, wait a minute. How did they go from that to those pictures of Carl surprising her at her bridal shower?
How
That's what
did
I don't understand.
if he said in that confessional, I'm supposed to marry this woman, but they didn't break up
Yeah.
for another 2 months? What happened?
I thought
Like,
that
all the
that
reasons
fight would have been like the fight
it
at the
should have
end.
been the end. It should
Yeah,
have, like, the fact that they drug it out longer, like,
I
and
know.
and I'm like, and I'm not saying Carl's all the way right about anything, but the fact that she weaponized his sobriety against him is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Like,
Yeah.
that was like so fucking gross. And like knowing people who have been in active addiction and then moving into their sober journeys, like that is one of the biggest triggers somebody like she could have sent him into a relapse and like that is so fucking gross and I agree that Carl fucked up but I don't think she ever should have weaponized his sobriety against
Oh,
him like
no. I don't think anybody thinks that what
right
she said was
I,
right. I've seen a lot of interesting opinions on this, though. And Who Asks Sell is somebody who, not defending Lindsay, but just sharing, because I've never been in a relationship with somebody who has had addiction issues, or I've never like known somebody who's had addiction issues to the extent that Carl has. And some people were sharing that it's like a very real like PTSD thing. And that they could empathize with, they don't agree. Like, nobody, I want to be very clear with my words.
yeah
But I've just been seeing kind of a range of opinions that I don't have the range to like give an informed perspective on, but I've seen some people say, I have actually experienced like complete anxiety over whether or not my partner, somebody I love, is relapsing, and it is like a PTSD moment. And relapse is actually very usual like it's very rare that you just get sober and then are never
and
using again. And again, this is not to like justify what she did at all.
well and I think
um
the interesting thing to me will be her because since it cut off like the episode ended kind of like as he was going for his run I'm intrigued to see the next morning because I've seen a clip about it. And one thing I saw was when she was doing her confessional, and they're like, did you ever think he was actually relapse or he was actually using? And she said no.
yeah,
And so it's just like, why would you say that then? Like, use his sobriety against him when, like, you,
yeah,
and again, I think obviously they have communication issues. I think she has abandonment issues, which doesn't go
yeah.
well with like the whole situation. Um, I'm, I will be interested to see how the next episode goes on like number one, how do they come back from this to like stay
I don't
engaged?
understand how they come back from this. That's what I'm incredibly confused by. I
Exactly.
also have to say that there is, and I realize that this is apples and oranges, but I am going to die on the hill that Kyle Cook gets a pass for all of the terrible and belligerent things that he says because he's a funny, goofy party boy. So when he went on that tirade for detailing Carl's cocaine addiction, which obviously is not the same as accusing him of being
Mhm.
on cocaine, but is also kind of in the same realm of inappropriateness.
Yeah.
And I think this was maybe an episode before he said that Lindsay Hubbard is a fucking bitch.
Hmm.
And this is just like kind of a blip in the Bravo discourse. It's like there's like a little bit of people. There's a few people who are like, "Oh, Kyle was really bad for that." Anyways,
Yeah.
lol, Summer should be, and now
Yeah.
it's like Lindsay Hubbard is canceled. Get her off the show. She's a monster. And I'm certainly not saying that Lindsay Hubbard has to be on Summer House, but I am implying that if you do not have a chaos agent on that show, it's going to be boring as fuck, and I will not be watching. So I am not going to be watching Amanda be a stay-at-home mom, whether it's dog mom or, baby mom. I'm not going to be watching Carl's spinoff with like sober lover boy. I'm sorry, I don't care. That sounds so boring. So again,
100%.
and
I think Carl's got to go from the show. I think Lindsay's got to
yeah.
stay, but I think it's just like you said, the discourse is interesting because I think there's a lot to be said on both sides of it, and
Mhm.
like, and I think, yeah, there's being with somebody in a relationship, like being in a relationship with somebody who has addiction issues and who is in recovery, there's obviously elements of PTSD there and like thinking they could go back. But I think the biggest thing for me is the fact that the next day she said she never actually thought he was using. And she
Oh,
just said,
yeah, and I
and that's,
again,
yeah.
I'm not excusing what she said.
But I agree that like Kyle is an alcoholic that we just don't discuss. Like
Right. It's like
he's an alcoholic,
obviously
like, and I think there's a difference, right? Where like Carl was the alcoholic showing up drunk to work every day. Kyle's the alcoholic who can like keep it together during the week and then loses his goddamn mind every weekend. And I think first we think that's funny and fun to watch, but like
Mhm.
the person who can't show up to work is like not funny, which obviously it's not funny, but because Kyle's like doing it on the weekend and like you said he's a fun party boy, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's okay." But it's like, "No, you guys both have issues, just
Well, and Kyle
places."
and Lindsay both have similar, I think, issues. I don't know that Lindsay's are as bad. She seems to kind of like flame, like her alcohol consumption seems to sort of just like really flare up, but they definitely
Yeah,
both have those binge drinking tendencies, and all of their toxic behavior is alcohol
mhm.
fueled.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's the whole show, right?
right,
Like,
it is. It
yeah,
is.
I
But
agree. Lindsay's like, I feel like Lindsay, and this is not going to help in the rest of the summer, but Lindsay's seem to flare up when she gets stressed or on
yes.
edge. I feel like she's put on the spot. And so I'm just worried about what the next few months, like the next few episodes, I just feel like we're going to see her spiral. And it's like, I just wish they would have ended it sooner so we didn't have to see
Man.
this shitty, like, downfall. Cause, like you said, like, we thought there'd be a big buildup and like a big fight at the end, but like, we already had the fight. What
Yeah, I
happened?
know. How can the fights be worse than what we saw? I
Oh, I
mean,
know. I'm already uncomfortable.
I might just sort of disassociate from it a little bit and just kind of enjoy the ride. We know they're over.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
anything, our anxiety should be with Amanda and Kyle, who are still,
Married
going
without
strong.
prenup.
And we also have, I'm putting all of my eggs in the West and Sierra baskets.
I'm so obsessed. Like,
I am too. And listen, I know that we have a history of, putting Bravo boys on a pedestal on Summer House. Like everyone was excited about Corey and Sam, and
mhm.
Corey ended up being like this huge transphobic right wing piece of trash.
Yep.
Um, y'all, I scrubbed West's Twitter account. Okay. And
I love
I'm not saying that he's like a saint or that he's perfect, but he is left leaning. He is pro choice. He is in favor of, sensible gun laws. He is a Kansas City Chiefs fan. That's not politics, but I'm just, plopping that in there in the list of, green flags. And he just seems like a really funny guy. Like he just has
it.
a really funny personality. So,
I
um,
love I love that
I'm knocking on wood, literally. Don't let us down, Wes. Sorry, dogs.
I love that he can joke about himself, which I thought was really fun when he was like, "This tall guy walks in with a smile from ear to ear." Like,
Yeah.
I'm not scared. I love him. I love him and Sierra's banter. I think it's super cute.
I have never seen her have so much chemistry with someone. I mean, physical chemistry, sure, but I've
Yeah,
never seen her have so much just like organic, like personality chemistry with someone.
right. I love
So,
it. I hope because I know Sierra had a rough season a few years ago. Last season, I think we kind of got to see her fun side again, like whatever. Like I feel like she's on the up and up. Um, I don't
I
know. I
think
feel
so.
like
From everything that I've heard, it sounds like all of the girls get along.
yeah. Mhm.
So, I'm excited to, that we're gonna have all this couple drama with along with, some of the like wholesome things with like West and Sierra.
Yes.
So, Well, that was a lot about Summer
Not
House.
more.
That could have been like a
Yeah.
recap.
Mhm.
Let's hit some of the other. So we are at Allie doesn't have a clock, you guys. So we're at 49 minutes. So let's hit some of the
Ooh.
other Bravo stuff real quick. Do you think that Brittany and Jax are broken up? We can just like do like a really quick.
Yeah, so originally I thought no, and then I thought yes, and then I thought no, and it was a PR. Like I've gone back and forth, but I think after seeing Brittany's TMZ interview, she
Mhm.
seems done.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um, I'm still equivocating, but it is hard for me to believe I guess my thing is like, if they are putting on this PR stunt, like, okay, what loser, big L behavior. Like, you cannot steep any lower than trying to do like a ripoff Scandival, and at this point, like a ripoff Carl and Lindsay,
Yeah.
to promote your show that nobody cares about. Like, I'm not gonna tune in to the Valley just
Nope.
because Jackson and Brittany broke up.
I know. Like yeah, I think I texted you this where it's like I don't care enough about either of them to watch the downfall of like with Carl and
Yeah.
Lindsay, I was like, holy fuck, I need to see what happens. When I heard this, I was like, why the fuck would I watch your show now?
Yeah,
Like
I simply don't care. It also doesn't take a lot of imagination to understand why someone
right.
would leave Jax. So,
Exactly. That was my other thought is like the reason it might be truthful is like Brittany's actually seems like a nice person and like
yeah.
how can you be with Jax Taylor?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I go back and forth. I'm still TBD, but I'm more leaning towards they're actually done now.
Yeah. I think I am too. But I'm very non-committal with my opinion on this.
Yeah,
So,
because I also
um
don't care enough to commit.
yeah,
So
exactly. Well, that might be all the time we have for Bravo, just in the interest of time. So, Love is Blind. OMG. What is going like these I can't decide if these casting directors are geniuses or if they are just like diabolical and intentionally cast some of the most insane people that they can.
yeah, I feel like I read somewhere that they have to go through like a psych eval, and I'm like, what is that psych eval? Because how did these people make it? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think number one, they need to apparently just get a woman on the background check team because, like, how do we have all these people in relationships? Like, all you
That
need is one girl to like scrub an Instagram and you'll figure it out. Like,
Yeah, and I don't understand this, desire of these people to, go on TV and then, be extremely vilified. I guess like, you know,
yeah,
is it
it's
so
just
they
weird.
might get because you don't get it's like the attention economy does not really work favorably for like the Trevors who lied about his girlfriend or the
Right.
Jeremy
Oh my
how people are spelling his name Jeremy who like cheated on his fiance. So
God.
it's just the motivations of these people is just like very again, maybe their brains need to be studied. It's just a very interesting
Yeah,
phenomenon. And it's like it's happened on The Bachelor a couple of times, but it is not nearly as
it's so
um
prevalent on Love Is Blind. Like,
yeah.
every like, nobody. You can't trust anybody on that show.
I
And then like,
know. And this is a spoiler for people who are not very far along, but it's also really funny to me that Jimmy has ended up being one of the least offensive
I
men.
love Jimmy. Like for him to put up with Chelsea, I'm like, you have the patience of a saint.
I
Like
It kind of made me realize that I think he's like really into her.
he loves her. He really
Yeah.
does.
He would have to. And I didn't really think that at first. I thought he
Me
was just like
neither.
going through the motions, but no, he really, really must be into her.
And like, yeah, I think from when they did the reveal and he gave the camera the look where it was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
he doesn't look like Megan Fox, but he's come so far. And like, I was all the way like, damn, Jimmy sucks. And now I'm like, Jimmy, you are a blessing. Like,
Yeah.
just,
I mean, the way that he really handled that fight beautifully. I don't know that he could have said or did anything else other than getting back together with her.
yeah, I think that should have been the end of them. But
Yeah. But do you think they'll end up getting married? Or do you think she'll like self-sabotage?
I don't know. I honestly have absolutely no idea with these couples. The only one I can think of is what's the birth control guy?
Oh, Johnny?
Johnny. I feel like him and Amy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think those two are gonna get married. Other than that, I have absolutely no idea about the rest of them.
I
Like,
know. Same.
it's
Same.
so up in
But
the air. You can't read it. And like Clay's always just like, I'm gonna cheat on you.
yeah.
And AD's like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Our girl AD deserves so much better.
he does. Yeah, Clay's a smooth talker and he talks around the issue.
Yes.
And it's frustrating to me because I'm like, I feel like AD watching this is probably just like, damn. But
Yeah.
in the moment, like with those kind of guys, it's so hard to like actually get to the bottom of things, you know?
It
Because
is.
it seems like you get an answer, but it's not a real answer.
It is for sure. Okay, so the traders, we are approaching the season finale as well as the reunion on Thursday. Both episodes are going to
Mhm.
air on Thursday. So, what are your predictions? Do you think that I guess the biggest question now is whether or not Kate is going to get caught?
I feel like Sandra's got her. I think
Yeah.
Sandra's busted her. I think Sandra, she caught that moment of Kayla or of Kate's mistake at the round table, and I think Sandra's gonna win. Or
And that
well,
I
win
was
for the
so
traitor or win for the
surprised
peoples.
by Kate is another person I'm a little bit of an apologist for, problematic fave, if you will. But I was so surprised that she took that aggressive of a turn. I mean, not only because she'd been lobbying for Phaedra, but also just because she likes Phaedra, I thought.
Yeah, and because nobody else at the table was taking that kind, like everybody was just like, I think it's you,
Yeah,
but
I don't want
I
it to be
hate
you. This is
that.
part of the game. Like, love you,
Yeah.
bye. Like what
Mhm.
CT did, our boy CT.
Oh,
But Kate was just like, brought her fangs out and it was just like kind of out of nowhere. And it's like, what are you doing, girl? Like,
yeah. Yeah,
not
I
only is
think
this like out of character, but it's also out of strategy.
yeah, I think if Kate would have played the game at the table and voted for Phaedra and just been like, I love you, I wish I didn't believe this, whatever it
Yeah.
is, I think Kate could have won the money, but I think she outed herself in that
Yeah.
moment. And Sandra's too good of a game player. Like I don't I didn't watch Big Brother. Was she on Big Brother, right? Or was it Survivor?
I think it's
I haven't
Survivor.
yeah, I don't watch.
Yeah.
But like she's supposed to be like one of the best game strategists. So it's just like I think
Yeah.
she's the issue. I think she noticed the like weakness and she's gonna exploit it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
The most
I love
predictable thing
CT.
to me, which I'm mad that I didn't put this out into the world because I thought it so many times. I was like, Peter and Ekin-Su are gonna get together.
Mm-hmm.
And they are.
Yep.
Like, dang, I really wish I would have been more, vocal about how clear I mean, it doesn't take a genius to predict because
Right.
that's just how both of them are. But
Yeah, but I kind of love it. Let's have a traitors romance. Like,
yeah,
and it's not
exactly.
Larsa and Marcus. Come on.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I'm a little annoyed that Trishelle made it to the end because she was just on my nerves for the entire thing. But
well, I hated when she came up. She's like, "Ugh, you guys, your exclusive group." I'm like, you were one of Peter's pals this whole time and wouldn't allow people in. What are you talking about, exclusive group? Like,
yeah,
when she went up to like the Bravo ladies and she was just like, oh, you gonna let me in? It's like,
she's
you have
so
your own group, lady.
she's so annoying, and she acts like she's never made a mistake on the show. That's what
Mm-hmm.
was annoying about it. She's like, nobody will listen to me. They're so, she was like acting, she was being
Right.
patronizing.
And I heard the gossip, and I can't remember where I heard it, so it's probably not true, but I heard gossip that Dan told her before his last roundtable that he was going to name a traitor at the table that night. And then she had a hard on for Phaedra ever since.
Ooh,
So
that's tea. I hope that comes out in the reunion.
yeah, because I heard it like it was like I think somebody did an interview where they said that that's why Trishelle went after Phaedra so hard from then on out.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't just like her own brilliance. Like
yeah, it was
she made it out to
Dan gave
be.
her the hint that like tonight when I go after somebody, they're a traitor. So
Yeah.
because he knew
Ugh.
the writing was on the wall, right? He was gone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I am also pissed at Dan for taking down both Phaedra and Parvati. Like
I
if he
know.
wouldn't have done that like bullshit move he did,
I
Phaedra would have
know.
seen this.
Super, super petty.
So petty.
All right. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Let's do our outro for sports. Um, this is like my least favorite time of year for sports. So I'm just going to keep it quick. Super glad that Kansas City are back to back world champions, just like we all predicted. Just kidding. And also, this is when I get on the bandwagon for basketball. So I am in the very contentious spot of rooting for both Creighton and Nebraska basketball, which is very sacrilegious in the state of
Yeah.
Nebraska. But Patrick is a major Creighton fan, and Nebraska just traditionally is not good at basketball. So, but this year they are going to make the tournament. So they had
Exciting.
like an 18-1 record at home and then a very bad record on the road, but it, I guess, is balancing out. So they're going to make the tournament. So I'll have two teams from the state of Nebraska to root for. And I'm a terrible women's sports follower because I forget. I know that the Creighton women are going to be in the tournament, and I think the Nebraska women might be too.
Nice. Very
So
exciting. So K-State women's basketball had a really strong first half of the season, and our second half has been a struggle. I can't remember what they're ranked right now because the new rankings I think came out today or coming out tomorrow, but they will be making the tournament. And really anything can happen in March Madness. So I'm just
yes,
gonna cross my fingers and hope for the best because yeah, it's anybody's game once you're in.
and
So excited for K-State women because I think they have a really good chance. We have some really great seniors who I think are going to want to go out on a really high note. So very excited to see them play. K-State men's are one of the bubble teams right now, so like it's TBD if they even make the tournament. Right now I think they're saying they're one of the last four in. I don't know.
okay.
I can't remember. So we'll have to wait until selection Sunday to see if I have anybody in the men's tournament to cheer for or not. But either way, I'm all in on the women's tournament this year because that's our best chance. So
That's
if the K-State,
awesome.
yeah, if the K-State men get in, like it is what it is. But the
Yeah.
women, we got to go for the women this year. So
That's awesome. Let's hear it for the K-State women. All right, y'all. Well, we will continue talking about March Madness. Hopefully, Allie and I can get together before, so like consistently in March, so we can just keep covering basketball. I say that
yeah.
you can tell I'm not even excited.
Basketball.
I'm so full of BS. No, I will. I'm happy for all of y'all basketball fans because I know this is a really fun time right now. So, woo,
Mhm.
go basketball. All
And
right.
yeah, and we'll do our best to try and record some regular episodes. But again, thank you all for bearing with us as we have our own lives and jobs and other things going on outside of this. And we will bring you as much content as we can based on our schedules.
Yes. Love y'all. See you next
Love y'all. Thank
time.
you.
Bye.